I never thought of, when I was out in the field, I never thought of identity as a servant. I always thought of it as a group of tools that you had to put together. So, getting folks to think about that and the importance of that over the last several years, that's something I'm pretty proud of, because we weren't thinking that way before.
Welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, in which we discuss the people that are protecting patient care. I'm Ed Gaudet, the host of our program today, and I am pleased to be joined by my good friend, longtime colleague, Wes Wright. Wes, good day to you, sir.
Oh, good day to you as well, Ed. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, it's been a pleasure to catch up. How's your summer going?
It's been a fantastic summer. Before we came on air, as we talked about, I had for the first time in a long time, had my boys most of the summer, and
nice. Yeah.
The podcast is Risk Never Sleeps. But I tell you, when you get that 8 and 11-year-old to go to sleep, and your risk quotient goes way down. I'll tell you that. Maybe it doesn't sleep, but it goes way down.
That is so true, especially with boys, right? I mean, because when they're sleeping, usually they're sleeping. I had 3 girls, and I was never sure if they were home or not. They're all much older now, so I'm sure if they're listening to this, don't hate me, kids. Always interesting though. There's no book to be a parent, is there? There's no manual to be a parent.
No, there's not. That is one of those situations where you do what you think's best and cross your fingers that it's actually is what's best.
Yeah. I remember, having a drink with my dad when I was a little older and a little more mature, and I could kind of deal with the issues
12,
I was having
13.
with them. Yeah, no, I was, that was actually, I was at college. I think I came home from college, and I had all these issues I wanted to work through with them. And, typically that got done at a bar. And so I kind of laid it on him, and it was, he just kind of put his head in his hands and said, I was doing the best I could. I thought I was doing the best I could. And I thought to myself, okay, that's a legitimate, real answer. And, I forgive you, and let's move on with our lives. And I hope my kids someday will hear this and say, okay, my dad was doing the best he could.
Hey, and always and forever, no malicious intent in anything.
No, benign intent, always assume benign intent. Yeah. So, how did you get into healthcare? You've been in healthcare for a while. Take us through your career background before we get into the personal side.
Yeah, it's been almost 30 years now, and I got into healthcare IT like most folks do. I started out as a Korean cryptologic linguist in the Air Force, which, like I say, is the normal path. But from there, I got into an Air Force program called the Health Services Administration. Mm-hmm. There's actually quite a few of us out there. And while doing that, there's 5 primary areas that you can focus in. And one of them is IT. I didn't start out in IT. However, I was a logistics officer, did an internship, and then saw an IT guy at my hospital I went to in Wichita, Kansas, little clinic. Mm-hmm. In 94 or 95, they were installing a health record, electronic health record. One of the first ones, DOD was one of the first ones to put that system wide. And I was watching him do that, and I was fascinated by how these things could talk to each other. And that inspired me the next job. Luckily, I was in the Air Force at the point in time where you could choose your next job. And there was a CIO opening at a small community hospital, Air Force hospital in Yokota Air Base in Japan. So I got my start at a 25-bed community hospital in Japan. And it worked out beautifully for me at the time. And some people won't even know this, but we were running something called Novell at the time.
Vines? We were running Banyan Vines too.
Banyan Vines on top of Novell. That's what we were doing.
That's great.
And the Air Force made the decision to switch from a Novell to, at the time, Windows NT. Mm-hmm. And there was nobody in my shop, small hospital, about 8 people. There's nobody in my shop that knew anything about that. So I took a week off and did all the CBTs for the Windows NT. And that's really what kind of whet my technical appetite more than anything. I kind of lean more of on the technical side and on the CIO bent rather than the business side, Frank.
Mm-hmm. And you were at Sutter, right, for a while?
Yeah, I was. I did moved all about in the Air Force. They're good at moving you every 2 or 3 years, so I did that. And then I got out. Gosh, I've almost been out as long as I got out in 2006, retired, and not in 2006. So another 3 years, and it'll be 20 years since I've been out.
Wow.
And started work with Drex down at Scripps in San Diego, and then we moved to Seattle Children's, and he went off and did some stuff, and I stayed there for a bit, and then Sutter, and then for 3 years, and then Imprivata for the last 5. And
yeah,
we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, I know we share a lot of background. I spent time at Imprivata. I also spent time in the Army, military. So I thank you for your service
and reciprocating here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So it's been a crazy couple of years for us living through the pandemic. What are you most proud of as you kind of reflect over the last couple of years?
The work over the last couple of years, I think, is bringing the concept of digital identity as an integrated service line rather than just pieces and parts. I know that's just starting to catch on, but I never thought of, when I was out in the field, I never thought of identity as a service. I always thought of it as a group of tools that you had to put together. So, getting folks to think about that and the importance of that over the last several years, that's something I'm pretty proud of, because we weren't thinking that way before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in all you had was piece parts, right? You had Paint, you had Vodka, you had Imprivata, and if you wanted capabilities, you had to sort of pick one of or more of those solutions and pull them and cobble them together. And oftentimes they didn't even integrate. So that's
right.
And what are some of the benefits that customers were finding through that, that approach?
Well, it's just like in everything, Ed. The simpler, when I was at Sutter, I used to preach this, what I call the QS4 model, and that's quality supported by stability, speed, and security. Stability, security, speed, all on the platform of simplicity. So, I mean, really, the more simple you can make things, which if you can run things as a service line rather than as individual pieces of parts, then you're making them more simple. The more simply you can run things, well, the more stable they become, the more secure they become, the faster you can change them. And so to me, it's all about simplicity and standardization. Talk about reducing risk. The more you can standardize and simplify, the less risk you have.
Yeah, no, I always like to refer to this phrase I learned. Actually, a CTO out of industry, I forget his name now, but he coined it, and I always refer to it. Entropy requires no maintenance, and so the hardest part of these things always is maintaining these systems for the near and long term. And
well, and that's just eating our lunch too. I mean, from a health IT perspective. I know we get the question later, but that I'm going to pull out my soapbox right now. I mean, we just can't keep adding applications to this finite resource of people to maintain these applications. I mean, we just consistently add and add and add and add. Every once in a while, you might take something away. So my theme for this year, it's something I'm going to be talking when I talk. Drex and I and Bill Russell were talking the other day. My theme for the year is all about application rationalization. We've got to take, in order for people to do their best work, we've got to take stuff off their plate. And the easiest way to do that, in my mind, is at one of my places, I had 35,000 applications. It could have been one application, 10 different versions, but 35,000. How are you supposed to manage, reduce the risk on that? So that is a lever that affects so many things that's become my soapbox as of late. that and a cyber meaningful use, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point.
Oh yes, my favorite topic. Absolutely, yeah. No, and it's interesting on the rationalization. I would almost take it one step further to say we almost need to rationalize our processes, like process rationalization. Applications obviously support those processes, but take into consideration not only the technologies and the processes, but also the people that are behind it. And if we're going to transform the organization in a meaningful way, we've got to look at all of those things together, I think.
And you just called out something that we're just IT folks are just incredibly guilty of. And that is not looking at the process that drove the selection of that application anyhow. If you're going to do application rationalization, that's actually where you stop, where you start. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Agree.
You start over there. You find the application, then just, we only use this twice a year. Well, hell, go find out what process that supports first before you go, we don't need that.
Yeah. And what other applications can we consolidate? Continually trying to get to that single pane of glass, although that's a little of an overused phrase, but still so important if you can get there, where you're limiting and reducing again not only the hard investment you make, but all that soft investment that is made to support and maintain those things over the long term.
Oh yeah, and it's a team. At one of the places I work, I actually tried to get that on as a hospital goal is application rationalization. Some percentage is this much, and so that's the kind of enterprise involvement you need in that. I didn't get it, and I didn't do application rationalization there.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, I mean, because it's huge, right? It's it's multifaceted. And it's also got a regulatory implication to it too, because I was talking to someone this week about they were complaining because they had to manage multiple instances of legacy EMRs.
Oh yeah,
because of discovery purposes, and they couldn't pull the data out and just store it. They actually had to keep it in the container.
Yeah, because they have to.
That's right.
They have to be able to present the data in the same manner that it was presented to the clinician at that time.
Exactly.
And it's a killer.
It's a killer, especially as you're consolidating your organization or organizations together. And now you're going to manage these multiple, right? Inpatient, outpatient. I mean, what a nightmare.
Yeah. But you don't need 4 different ways to send a text message either.
No, that is true. That is true. So, having built a texting system, yes, I agree with that.
Yes. Pick the low hanging fruit. Leave the EHRs out for.
That's right.
Out for a bit.
That's right. So, what do you, when you're not working, you're not doing tech stuff and healthcare stuff, what are you passionate about? What do you?
I used to be a runner. My hips and knees. I got to 9. I got to 9 marathons, and I just said, one time I want to, maybe even if I have to walk it, I'm going to get that 10th, damn it.
Yeah.
But used to run a lot, but I've moved out kind of in the country and have some property now. And God, it's amazing to me how much time it takes to maintain, a couple of acres of property. So, I hate to say it, but, I've become a health IT / lawn guy, frankly, with an occasional opportunity to watch a movie or something every now and then, but pretty boring life, frankly.
What are you binge watching? Any interesting movies or series?
When I was a kid, I grew up watching or reading Asimov.
Oh yeah,
and Apple has that new series out called Foundation, which is Asimov, based on Asimov's books.
Oh,
so I've been watching that. They just released a new season, so it's kind of fun, just kind of fun stuff to watch.
Yeah. Are you a Neil Stephenson fan, Cryptonomicon, or read that? Oh, that's a great. I mean, coming out of cryptography, you should check that book out. It's it's
well, I may have.
Yeah. Oh, you may have. Yeah, years ago.
Yeah.
It's old. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Remember that was like almost 40 years ago.
No, so. I know. All right. What any other passions,
like
culture?
You know, I like to travel. We like to travel and see different places, and
what's the most interesting place you've been to?
Wow, interesting.
For you, it could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I'm really enjoyed Italy.
Yeah,
mostly. I've got some in-law relatives that own a bed and breakfast in northern Italy, and
oh wow,
so that's been really fun to get to know the culture of Italy, that from a family perspective, but from a pure just wow, this is a fun city. Sydney's pretty cool.
Oh,
I mean, it is so cosmopolitan,
yeah,
so walkable, so pretty. The people are all super nice. So Sydney and Italy, I like the hardship places.
Well, Italy's so different too. Like you get Florence, you get Venice, you got, obviously.
Yeah, we did that one. We based out of the north, but then we went to Sicily for a couple nights.
You did,
completely different from the north, and
exactly,
so on and so forth. So
did you get to Amalfi at all?
Yeah, we did the Amalfi Coast. We rented a boat and took us all along the coast there, which was fairly economical. If there's 4 or 5 of you that want to go on a boat tour, I'd recommend just rent a boat. You're probably going to get it away for cheaper, and it's neater. It's more fun.
Yeah. No, it's so beautiful.
Oh, and speaking of Sicily and movies, though, and binge watching, there's one on Paramount that you got. It's called The Offer. It's about the making of The Godfather. The producer Al Ruddy produced that series. So it's really interesting if you're into Italy or The Godfather at all. Yeah. It's a really cool series.
There's I'm a huge Francis Ford Coppola fan, and Apocalypse Now, one of my favorite movies of all time. But similarly, there's Heart of Darkness, which was I think his wife made the made that film. It's a documentary of the making of the Apocalypse Now movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's done in the Philippines.
Have to take a look. I like Coppola too.
Yeah, check it out. It's really interesting. And the stuff, like he was renting helicopters from the army, and then they called him back because it was an issue. They had to go during the movie. Yeah, it's crazy. Like
nice.
All this crazy stuff going on. But
writing that down.
It's a good, Heart of Darkness. It's a good
Heart of Darkness.
Yeah. Which again, that movie's after the Joseph Conrad book, Heart of Darkness. Okay. Let's see. What else do I have here for you? Well, we are running close to time, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this question, because
what's that?
This is the Risk Never Sleeps podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What, Wes Wright, is the riskiest thing you've ever done in your life?
It was that juncture between when I was a Korean cryptologic linguist and a health service administrator. I 7 years, almost 8 years into the Air Force, and for some reason I decided I was going to leave the Air Force and go get my master's degree, which doesn't sound that risky, except I didn't have a job. I had a wife, and I had a 4-year-old kid or 3-year-old kid.
That's pretty risky.
So I think that's probably, I still to this day don't know where I got the stones to make that decision, but that's probably the riskiest thing I've done from a lifetime perspective.
Oh, so no bungee jumping, no swimming in the Amazon.
Not for me. None of that. No bungee, no parachute, no, 20 years in the Air Force, but I don't like being high unless I'm in an airplane.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you said that. This is a clean program, Wes.
Right.
I think we're both hippies at some point in our lifetime, maybe.
Probably.
Well, that's great. Hardest lesson in your career?
Boy, I'm dragging these up out of nowhere. This came back from the time when I was a logistics officer and deciding to become a healthcare IT. Lost sight of some expiration dates on some stuff, and could have really hurt some people. And that was quite a life lesson for me at that point in time. And it just really associated the work that I'm doing in healthcare with the people, which is, as a logistics officer, you don't really, you don't see the patients, you don't interact with the patients, but really that taught me that everything that's done in healthcare is super, super important, be it at the patient bedside or in the back office. So that was a good lesson to learn and a hard way to learn it, but I'm glad I did at that early juncture.
Yeah, I know, and it's so true. And what a great point to make on this program, because, more than ever, the professionals at the front line protecting the systems, basically, that are delivering care, are truly make a difference in whether or not a patient gets the care they need to sustain life. Right. So if a patient is hooked up to a medical device and it gets hacked and gets shut down, or if a actual clinic or hospital gets shut down due to ransomware, I mean, these are direct impacts to patients. So,
or something not even that, not even that obvious. A piece of software that you meant to do a good thing interrupts a physician's train of thought and just causes this cognitive dissonance that doesn't have to be there. And that's where, everything you do matters in that delivery of patient care. You may think, this little pop-up message saying that lunch is ready or something like that is no big deal, but you've just taken the focus away from somebody who's delivering for patient. So that's the lesson I learned with that. I had this little bitty vial that was sitting, it wasn't even refrigerator. Yeah, it was sitting on the refrigerator, this innocuous thing, and it affected this many people.
Wow.
And these innocuous things that we're doing affect a lot of people down the road.
No, that's a great lesson. One more question. You can go back in time and you run into your 20-year-old self. What would you tell the 20-year-old Wes Wright?
It'd be just keep plugging away. I didn't find my calling till late in life, frankly. And at that time in my 20s, you get a lot of frustration about, you do have some my daughter, she decided she wanted to do this when she was 12 years old. So, when she was 20, she took off, and I wasn't fortunate like that. So, and my dad said it a couple times to me. It's just, hey, keep plugging away, just keep doing the right thing, and eventually something will break and you'll find something. And it took a bit, but I did find something. So I guess I'd give the same advice my dad gave me when I was 20, and that's just keep plugging away.
No, that's great. That's terrific. Yeah. And it's funny. I asked that question to all guests, and the answers are very similar in nature.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I always thought they're going to say buy Microsoft or, but it's not about that. And I think that's what's interesting about people. It's not always about those material things or simply money that everyone assumes that's what everyone's after. So no, that's great.
Agreed.
And any other last comments or thoughts?
I really appreciate you having me on, and it's a fun discussion.
Yeah, no, thanks, Wes. And thanks to our listeners. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. And if you're on the front lines protecting patient safety, stay vigilant, because risk never sleeps. And we are out. All right. Let me just turn this.
Appreciate it, man.